This story is titled, My Wife Has Been Reconnecting with an Old Flame and Insists They Are Just Catching Up. I never thought my marriage would come to this. My name is Daniel, and I'm 54 years old. My wife, Laura, is 52. We've been together for 27 years, through raising two kids, through sickness, through job changes and financial struggles, through the thousand little things that make a life together. I thought we had built something unshakable. I thought I knew her heart as well as my own. But now, I feel like a stranger in my own home. It started small. Laura had been spending more time on her phone, nothing obvious, just little moments when she'd turn the screen away when I walked by or smile at something, and then quickly swipe it away when I asked what she was looking at. I told myself I was imagining things. After all, we trusted each other. We weren't the kind of couple who played games or kept secrets. Then, one evening, I caught a glimpse of a name on her screen. Jack Thompson. Jack. A name I hadn't heard in decades, but still recognized instantly. He was her high school sweetheart, the boy she had loved before she met me. The one she used to talk about with a bittersweet smile in our early years when we were still young and fearless. I didn't say anything at first. Maybe it was just a casual hello, I told myself. Maybe they had reconnected in some innocent way. I wanted to believe that. But as the weeks passed, I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. The way she seemed distracted, the way she laughed at her phone, the way she suddenly started caring more about her appearance, buying new clothes, wearing perfume to just run errands. One night, as we lay in bed, I finally asked, Laura, have you been talking to Jack? She hesitated just long enough to send a chill down my spine. And then with an easy smile, she said, Oh, yeah, we reconnected on Facebook. It's nothing. Just catching up. Just catching up. I nodded, forcing a smile, but something in me tightened. I wanted to trust her. I needed to trust her. But the way she said it, it was too casual, too rehearsed. I told myself I was being paranoid. But that night, long after she had fallen asleep beside me, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, feeling a terrible weight in my chest. The next morning, I did something I had never done in our nearly 3 decades together. I picked up her phone when she left it on the kitchen counter. My hands shook as I scrolled through her messages, searching for his name. And when I found them, my stomach turned to stone. The messages weren't explicit. There were no declarations of love, no outright betrayals. But they didn't need to be. The way they spoke, the little inside jokes, the late-night messages that stretched on for hours, it was intimate in a way that cut deeper than anything physical. I sat there, gripping the phone, my mind racing. Was I overreacting? Was I making something out of nothing? But deep down, I knew. I knew. This wasn't just catching up. This was a door opening to something else, something dangerous. I confronted her that night. I told her I had seen the messages. She didn't deny it. Instead, she got defensive. Daniel, you're overthinking this. We're just reminiscing. It's harmless. Harmless? My voice cracked. Laura, you're talking to him more than you talk to me. She sighed, rubbing her temples. Because you don't talk to me anymore, Daniel. When was the last time we had a real conversation? When was the last time you really listened to me? Her words hit like a slap. I wanted to argue, to say it wasn't true, but a part of me wondered, had I stopped paying attention? Had I let the years dull the spark between us? But still, this wasn't the way to fix it. I don't care what's missing between us, I said quietly. You don't go looking for it in another man. She stared at me, and for the first time in years, I couldn't read her expression. For the next few weeks, things were tense. She said she'd stop talking to him, but I saw the way she hesitated before setting her phone down, the way she glanced at it when she thought I wasn't looking. I didn't know what to do. I loved her. I still loved her. But I felt like I was grasping at something that was already slipping through my fingers. And then, the moment that shattered everything. I came home early from work one afternoon, walking into our house with the quiet expectation of routine. But as I stepped into the living room, I heard a voice. His voice. Laura was on the phone, her voice soft, laughing in a way that made my stomach twist. I didn't announce my presence. I just stood there, listening. I miss those days too, she was saying. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if things had been different. A pause, then her voice even softer. I think about you sometimes, you know? I couldn't listen anymore. Laura, she spun around, her face draining of color. She knew. In that moment, she knew she had been caught. Silence stretched between us like a chasm. Finally, she whispered, Daniel, it's not what you think. But it was. It was exactly what I thought. I turned and walked out the door. I needed air, space, anything to stop the walls from closing in. My mind was spinning, my heart pounding so hard it hurt. How had we gotten here? How had the woman I built a life with, the woman who had once looked at me like I was her whole world, ended up whispering those words to someone else? And the worst part? I wasn't sure if I even wanted to know the answer. I drove aimlessly, the streets blurring past as my mind raced. I couldn't go back home. Not yet. The image of Laura, phone in hand, whispering those words to Jack, played over and over in my head like a cruel joke. I think about you sometimes. How long had she been thinking about him? How long had I been nothing more than a shadow in her life while she rekindled an old flame? I parked at the edge of a quiet overlook, gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. I wanted to be angry. I wanted to shout, to curse, to let the rage consume me. But beneath the fury, there was something worse. A deep, aching sadness. A grief for something I hadn't even realized was dying. Laura and I had been together for nearly 3 decades. We had built a life, a family, a history. And now I was standing on the edge of something I never thought I'd have to face. The possibility that she might not love me anymore. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting the world in shades of orange and gold. I sat there for what felt like hours, my mind swinging between betrayal and the painful realization that maybe, just maybe, I had been blind to something that had been unraveling for years. By the time I returned home, the house was dark except for a faint glow coming from the living room. Laura was sitting on the couch, her eyes red-rimmed, her hands clasped in her lap. She looked up when I stepped inside, her expression unreadable. "I thought you weren't coming back," she whispered. I closed the door behind me. I wasn't sure if I should. Silence stretched between us. I could feel the weight of everything unspoken pressing down on us. Finally, I broke it. "Tell me the truth, Laura. If I hadn't walked in on that call, would you have told me? Or would you have kept talking to him?" She inhaled sharply, looking away. That was all the answer I needed. I felt something crack inside me. "How long?" She hesitated, then sighed. "A few months." I nodded slowly, trying to process the words. It felt like I had been punched in the gut. "And what exactly is this, Laura? Are you in love with him?" She shook her head quickly. "No, I don't know. It's not like that. It just happened. At first, it was innocent, just reminiscing, catching up, but then I don't know, it felt nice to talk to someone who saw me, who remembered the person I used to be." Her voice cracked on the last word, and suddenly, her face crumpled. "Daniel, I swear, I never meant to hurt you." I ran a hand down my face, exhausted. "But you did, Laura. You did." She reached for me, but I stepped back. I wouldn't be the one to comfort her. Not when she was the one who had set fire to everything we had built. "I need to know," I said, my voice hoarse. "If he wanted you back, if he asked you to leave me, would you?" Her breath hitched, and for a brief second, her hesitation was louder than any answer she could have given. That was it. That was all I needed to know. "I think you need to figure out what you really want, Laura," I said finally. "Because I'm not going to be second choice. Not after everything." I turned to leave the room, but her voice stopped me. "Daniel, please, don't give up on us." I paused, my heart screaming at me to turn around to fight for what we had. But how do you fight for something when you don't even know if the other person wants to? I walked upstairs, closing the bedroom door behind me. That night, I slept alone. And for the first 7 years, I wondered if this was how it was going to end. If this story resonated with you, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Share your thoughts. What would you do in Daniel's shoes? Stay tuned for more powerful stories like this.